Food districts are obviously an ongoing issue throughout much of Birmingham. As the councilor pointed out, it does come down to money and the metrics that these folks are using. You know, we have to explore every opportunity we can to provide incentives to get folks to locate there. You know, I personally think that one thing that we should be doing is reaching out to the farmers of Alabama, trying to set up farmers markets throughout the districts and making that available to folks, because that supports not only Alabama's economy, but it provides an opportunity for folks to get fresh fruit and vegetables. But really, it's just going to come down to lobbying hard to find folks that are going to locate into these neighborhoods, and that's just going to take time. But it's definitely something that I am going to be supportive of, regardless of being in my district or any other district of the city. Affordable housing is absolutely a crisis, not only here, but across the nation. As folks are relocating and looking for affordable homes, they're coming into, particularly into the Sun Belt here in the South, and there's just more competition for that. As the demand rises, so will the price, which means that we have to increase the housing supply. We also need to be looking at transit-oriented development. We need to be densifying. We need to be encouraging folks to move into the city, to work there, to play, eat there, do all of their activities there, and we need to be investing into our transit system, which will support that. We need to be looking at ways to make housing affordable. The couple of years has worked on developing housing that is not only energy efficient, but is also very inexpensive. We need to be looking at opportunities to modify the city code to allow for novel
Having some connectivity issue. Okay, it's connected.
There is a problem in America with incarceration. We incarcerate more people than anyone on the planet, and because of the way that we have structured our society, it makes it incredibly difficult for folks to come out of that and to reestablish a life and to have any measure of success. You know, the city has banned the box, as it's called, where they're not checking that as a prerequisite for employment. I would love to explore making that an ordinance, that it's not something that happens in Birmingham. Byron had a good point talking about the state and how, you know, folks will go over our head. One thing to keep in mind about any policy that we may propose here is the state has very frequently come into Birmingham and when we've tried to do something and smacked us down. A great example is the minimum wage increase that happened. We will be fighting them tooth and nail at every opportunity to try to improve life for folks, and so that it's incumbent on us to try to explore creative opportunities to get folks the opportunity to build a better life. One thing that I'm focused on is adult education, making it resources available for folks to learn how to start a business and run a business, get vocational training. You know, if we're going to be building a lot more homes in Birmingham, and we're already building a lot of construction projects across the city, our people need to be able to take advantage of that, and they need to have the skills necessary to do that. So that's an opportunity there to provide this resource to formerly incarcerated folks, to give them the tools and opportunities to better themselves. And that's just one aspect of how we can help them to reintegrate into society. But, you know, as a systemic problem, we're going to have change from above. And, you know, we need to be lobbying not only our state representatives and our state senators, but we need to be lobbying our federal representatives and senators to try and address this in a meaningful way, and that's something that I'm definitely committed to doing. Climate change is, on a whole, beyond the scope of the city council alone. It is a global problem. It is something that we are going to have to work with others to address across the world. However, when we talk about what we can do here in Birmingham to help folks really here on the ground, one of the things that we need to be looking at, again, is transit-oriented development. We need to be making investments in our transit system, because instead of 50 people driving 50 cars, we can have 50 people riding on a bus, or our bus rapid transit system, or maybe even light rail one day. These are the kinds of things that we have to be focused on doing on a local level. In addition to that, we also need to be looking at expanding urban farming. One, that's a carbon sink. Two, that provides jobs here in our community. Three, that lowers the transportation costs of the food that will feed our people. Beyond that, we need to be lobbying at the state level to overturn the terrible solar tax that Alabama Power has placed on personal solar systems. That's one practical thing that we need to be doing. Beyond that, we need to be looking at modifying again our zoning to allow for densification when folks are living closer to where they work, to where they play, to all the things that they need to do to have a life. That allows them to have a lower carbon footprint. Alice is correct that another thing that we need to be exploring is retrofitting our homes. There are programs that are being explored at the federal level, especially now that we're debating the massive infrastructure investment. Hopefully, once some of those things are going to include these very aspects of investing in transit, investing in retrofitting, and we need to be preparing ourselves to lobby to get that money here to Birmingham so that we can make use of it for our people. My background in formal education is philosophy, so if we want to talk about what capitalism is the free exchange of money between peoples, free association. American capitalism is a particular practice subset of that. American capitalism has a lot of flaws, a lot of deep flaws that we have to meaningfully address. Some of those we can address at the city level. A lot of them are going to have to be addressed by the federal government, and unfortunately, especially after the Citizens United ruling in 2010, money talks and money has bought politics. So one thing that we should all be doing is lobbying to get money out of politics. That's the only way that we're going to be able to make any meaningful change in that way. I think I can be very direct and very simple with this. Two things. One is increasing housing supply. It's that supply-demand curve. Prices are going up because there is not enough supply. We have to be exploring options to build more housing, building housing that is efficient, safe, and comfortable for people to live in. The other side of that is the educational stuff that I talked about before. Folks who can find a good job, who can start their own business, are folks who are going to be able to afford housing. So it's really that two-pronged approach of find ways to increase the housing supply and put the resources in people's hands to better themselves so that they can get the money that they need to have affordable housing.